You found yourself on another edition of Let 'Em Know Kings United, and on today's episode, the Chicago Bulls got a get-right game against the Washington Wizards and a much-needed win at that. The Cavaliers are absolutely exposed against the Houston Rockets, and Jalen Brunson went off for 42, and the Kings failed in a playoff test. We got a lot to talk about on Let 'Em Know Kings United. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for the post-game reaction podcast of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and the Chicago Bulls. This is Let 'Em Know Kings United. Let 'Em Know Nation, you already know what time it is. Welcome to another edition of Let 'Em Know Kings United, your Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and Chicago Bulls post-game reaction podcast. I'm your host, Skylar Weisberg. Thank you so much for tuning into today's program, and you can find Let 'Em Know Kings United, which is 100% completely free and available on your favorite podcast app like Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Pandora, all that good stuff. You can also find this show on my YouTube channel, NJHawk40. If you are watching this show on YouTube, do me a favor, hit the like button on this video, hit subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on that notification bell, and leave a nice comment down below. Give the show a follow on those platforms. If you can please, turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends, and give Let 'Em Know Kings United a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. It is an amazing way to support the podcast, and I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. And by the way, I hope everybody had a wonderful St. Patrick's Day. I hope everybody ate their helpings of their corned beef, their cabbage, their Irish soda bread, all that good stuff. I took St. Patrick's Day off from recording just to enjoy the holiday and just to give myself extra time to assess the 3 games for the Cavs, Kings, and Bulls from over the weekend, and gave me an extra day to try to break it down as best as I can. So with that being said, let's get right down to some business. I want to start by talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers because they are absolutely exposed 117-103 to a Houston Rocket team that, quite frankly, unlike the Cavs, they understood what type of the season that they're in. They understood the significance of the season to this point. This isn't October, November, December anymore, where teams can back off and battle for the standings and feel each other out. It's playoff time. Shout out to the Franklin High School in New Jersey coach. He said this during a Somerset County final or Somerset County quarterfinal game that I called back at Watchung Hills Regional High School, my high school. Shout out to the Warriors of Watchung Hills. We were playing the Warriors of Franklin in the Somerset County quarterfinals, and I don't remember who the head coach's name is. Something Foster. It's in the back of my mind right now. But that head coach for Franklin said something that I found shocking that he said that, but it's kind of ironic given the fact that we're in this point of the NBA season. He said it's winning time. And unfortunately for Cleveland, they didn't understand that. Unfortunately for Cleveland, they did not come prepared for this game. I thought Houston were the more hungrier team than Cleveland. The switching that the Houston Rockets did on defense caused a lot of problems for Cleveland. I thought Cleveland on both ends was absolutely sporadic. Absolutely sporadic. They had no idea what the heck they were doing on both ends of the floor. Offensively, I did not see any flow. I did not see any rhythm from them. Defensively, we were leaving too many guys open for threes. And this is a Houston Rocket team that is one of the worst teams in the entire NBA when it comes to shooting threes. It damn sure didn't look like it the way that the Cavaliers were not defending them. Because of the inability for the Cleveland Cavaliers to defend a three-point shot that Houston was spraying all night long. That's what caused this loss for Cleveland. The inability to play defense and the inability to lock in on both ends of the floor. Houston set the tone when they were moving the ball. And once shots went down for Houston, it could have been it was like a long night for Cleveland, because what Cleveland was forced to do now was play from behind. And unfortunately, this Houston team that, by the way, won 5 straight games now, is just a couple of games out from the play-in. They could sneak into the play-in race. And by the way, they are without Alperen Sengun for the rest of the season. He suffered a knee injury against Sacramento, one of the gruesomest knee injuries that I've seen in my life. And I've said this before, I don't wish injuries upon anybody. And I don't care what fan you are. I don't care if you are a Houston fan. I don't care if you're a Cleveland fan. I don't care if you're a Chicago. Even just a sports fan in general, I don't like injuries upon anybody. And the injury that Alperen Sengun suffered, it could have been a death nail. It could have been an absolute death nail to the Houston Rockets season. It could be down the line. But right now, this Houston Rocket team is playing inspired basketball. Their best basketball of the season. Jalen Green, who was a really standout performer for Houston. He finished with 26 points and 11 rebounds. He also grabbed 4 assists while hitting 4 of 9 from three-point range. He said after the game, we started off pretty hot when we're moving the ball. Once they were falling, it was a confidence builder. We were just doing what we've been doing, starting hitting shots, and did our thing. The Rockets outscored Cleveland 56-46 in the paint. Jabari Smith Jr., who was the starting center of this game, finished with 20 points. Can I get an amen, somebody? Thompson, 18 points. Fred VanVleet, 13 points and 16 assists for Houston, who made 15 three-pointers in this game. They averaged 12 threes a game. Houston does. They made 15 of them. What does that say about Cleveland? Defense was absolutely embarrassing. Houston led at 1 point, 70-54, and entered the fourth quarter with a 25-point lead. I didn't think Cleveland was ready to play this game, to be honest. To be absolutely honest, I think Cleveland got what they deserved. I think the Cavs are clearly exposed, because the injury to Donovan Mitchell aside, with no Donovan Mitchell, the Cleveland Cavaliers have no identity. And unless Donovan Mitchell is fully 100% healthy, I hate to break it to you, the Cavaliers will suffer another first-round exit, because what is their identity? What is the identity for the Cleveland Cavaliers? The identity is the defensive end. You give up a 26-point lead to a Houston Rocket team that is 3.5 games out of the play-in. I don't know what else to say other than the Cleveland Cavaliers were not ready to play. The Cavaliers did not understand the point of the season that they're in right now. They didn't lock in, they weren't ready, they weren't prepared, and they got burned for it. I don't care about Darius Garland trying to hold the team down. I don't care about Tristan Thompson returning for the first time in 2 months, his 25-game suspension. I don't really give a damn about all of that. This was a game that I thought the Cleveland Cavaliers were exposed. They were unprepared. They were not locked in on both ends of the floor. They took Houston lightly, and they fell into their own trap. I don't know if there's such a thing as trap games at this point of the season. Well, this was a trap game for Cleveland because On paper, we would have thought that we could have beat Houston. If we beat Houston, we would have had a share of second place in the East. But the inability for us to take care of business, the inability to lock in on both ends of the floor, and the inability to find the right mentality, that's what I think lost this game. I don't think we had a mentality coming in. I think the mentality of this game was, let's just get this over with and see what happens. We are at a point of the season where playoff positioning becomes a major factor. There is a big difference between being a 3 seed that the Cavaliers are right now and then falling potentially back to the 5th or 6th. The Cavaliers need to figure out what kind of team they are. Because with no Donovan Mitchell, we clearly have no identity. I hate to be a little bit of a Debbie Downer to start the show, but I need to be completely honest because J.B. Bickerstaff was really disappointed. He said early in the ball game, you could see we were getting outworked and outscrapped. For us, the defense sets our tone, and when we don't do that, we don't give yourself a chance to win. Ime Udoka said about that, I think the switching affected them and forced them to play a lot of more one-on-one. We did a good job with all those bodies we had. I loved our effort defensively from the start, and specifically in the third quarter, to come out with that start and really kind of put it away early there. It was a great win for Houston, and I need to give Houston credit. I've been saying this since the beginning of the show. Houston, you deserve a lot of credit. You were more connected than us. You were more locked in than us. You understood the point of the season, and you were more urgent. The Cavaliers had a lack of urgency in this game, and ultimately, Houston took advantage of that. Houston took advantage of the lack of urgency that Cleveland had, despite the fact that Caris LeVert led with 21 points. Georges Niang had 14, and Spida had 13 coming back from injury. I really do not give a damn about all of that. I really do not give a damn. What really disappoints me is the Cavaliers looked absolutely lifeless in this game, and to me, the Cavaliers got exactly what they deserved. I can hope and pray that this is a wake-up call. I can hope and pray that this is a wake-up call for Cleveland, because if they show up against Indiana tonight, the same lifeless efforts that I saw in Houston, forget about the playoffs. Forget about the playoffs. This could be an ultimate first-round exit, and if J.B. Bickerstaff leads us to another first-round exit, I'm calling for his damn job. If I was Colby Altman, I would be calling for his damn job, to be perfectly honest. Houston shot 48% from the field, 45% from Cleveland. The three-point percentage, 35% to 31% in favor of Houston. The rebounds were 48-45 in favor of Houston. The assists were 28 to 22 in favor of Houston. The steals were 9-6 Houston. The points of the paint, 56-46. Fast break points, 21-18 in favor of Houston. Caris LeVert led the Cavs in scoring with 21. He had 7 assists, 3 steals, and a block, 8 of 14 from the field. Darius Garland with 12, Georges Niang with 14. Spida came back and had 13 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. We won't have him tonight against Indiana. Tristan Thompson, his first game back, 5 points with 5 rebounds, and assists, and a steal. Sam Merrill had 11 off the bench. I thought he was solid, 3 of 5 from 3. That's the only thing that he does well, but he had 8 rebounds and 2 assists to his credit. As far as Houston, Fred VanVleet, 13 points, 16 assists, 5 rebounds. Dylan Brooks, 12 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Amen Thompson, 18 points, 8 rebounds for him. Jabari Smith Jr. was really solid with 20 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. Jalen Green, 26 to lead Houston in scoring, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, 2 blocks, 9 of 20 from the field. Good, solid win for Houston. Great win for them. And the Cleveland Cavaliers, you need to figure out what kind of mentality you're going to have. You need to understand that it's winning time. You need to understand it's playoff time. Teams are not going to play around with you. Teams are not going to be soft. They're going to come at you. And if I was Cleveland, I would learn to lock in and lock in quick. Because if you bring this mentality going forward, it's going to be not only a long season for you, the rest of the season, but a very long off season. Because right now, I see another first round exit for Cleveland. Prove me wrong and get a better mentality. Coming up next, the Chicago Bulls finally got a get-right game, but there's one thing that I need to complain about. We're going to talk about the win and the one gripe that I have when we come back on Let 'Em Know Kings United. Welcome back to Let 'Em Know Kings United, and you hear that? That's a sigh of relief for the Chicago Bulls and their fan base, because we finally got a win that we can feel good about. A 127-98 get-right win over the Washington Wizards in a game that I felt extremely confident going in. Extremely confident, because I knew in the back of my mind the Chicago Bulls needed this win. They needed this in the worst way. First of all, they were coming off an overtime thriller against Indiana a couple of nights before. Prior to that, they got absolutely embarrassed once again at home to the LA Clippers. Now, I can't really blame the Bulls in the Clippers game for the loss. It was because, simply put, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard were absolutely unconscious, and we couldn't do anything to stop them all night. Heading into this game, I thought, at one thing, the Bulls are going to overlook the Washington Wizards. This is going to be another embarrassment. This could be another trap game at home, and it would be another terrible loss for the Bulls. The Bulls actually flipped the script and played one of their best games, most complete games of the season. I think this is the first complete game that I've seen the Bulls play since the Utah Jazz game in the beginning of the season. And the star of the show was clearly Ayo! With a career-high 34 points on the night, Nikola Vucevic added 29 and 13. The Bulls made it look easy against the team's worst NBA record, with Dosunmu and Vucevic setting the tone. They led by 22 at one point and never were threatened after the break. I'm going to disagree on that. I'm going to disagree on the point that the Chicago Bulls never seemed threatened at the second half, because at one point the Washington Wizards were making a really, really big run. They only got outscored 28-24 and 32-29 in the second half. So I got to give Washington some kind of credit for at least showing a little bit of fight, a little bit of resilience, a little bit of resolve in this game, especially in the second half. But Ayo Dosunmu, Nikola Vucevic, and the Chicago Bulls set the tone instantly with a 32-19 first quarter, and they never, ever looked back. DeMar DeRozan, he didn't need to do anything. He didn't have to do anything in this game. Yes, he struggled. Yes, he had a bad night. Yes, he had an off night, but he didn't have to do much, because Ayo Dosunmu and Nikola Vucevic were straight up cooking. The young guys were straight up working in this game. Dosunmu, whose previous high was 29 in a win against Atlanta last month, made 4 threes. The third-year pro matched the season best with 9 assists. He hit him with a couple of ayo, dos, tres, cuatro, with a little bit of hot sauce. He says he keeps a journal tracking his progress, and there's a noticeable difference from a year ago. Ayo said, I wrote down where I was last year because I knew I wasn't the player I wanted to be. I understood that in order to get better, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of work. I pretty much try to write it down just so at a time like now, I could look back a year and say, okay, this is where I was at. I love that. I absolutely love that, Ayo Dosunmu. If anybody can journal their work, and if anybody can journal their progress, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. It actually inspired me a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you, Dosunmu. If you're listening to this, you inspired me right now, bro. Maybe I need to start journaling my progress like Io does, because I'm starting to work out, because I've been working out on my treadmill for the last couple weeks. I'm trying to get some exercise in my system, trying to look better for myself and for my mental and emotional confidence. So maybe if I can follow Dosunmu's method here and journal my progress to where I was to where I am now, that is absolutely outstanding. Shout out to you, Io. Billy Donovan said Dosunmu was a constant presence at the team's practice facility the offseason, and the work is paying off. He said, I do think there's even much more room and improvement for him. He had to solve some things for himself. Just talking to him a little bit about the way he was being guarded. It's really hard to play to your strengths, which for him is out in transition and in the open floor. Attacking the paint if you're not a threat ever to shoot. AC scored 16. DeRozan added 13 points. Despite just taking 7 shots in this game and 6 assists, the Bulls shot 58% from the field and dominated the Wizards in the paint, 68-46. The Wizards fell to 4-20 under interim head coach Brian Keefe with their 3rd straight loss and 19th in the last 21 games. Keefe said they were able to get the ball in the paint, score in the paint, offensive rebounding in the paint. We didn't probably do enough of resistance early in the game, but then as the game grew, our fight actually got better, so I was pleased with that. It was a pure running of the Bulls for Chicago offensively. We did a really great job of getting the ball in transition and allowing Ayo Dosunmu and guys like Dalen Terry, guys like Javon Carter, guys like Alex Caruso, who hit a nice shot slamma-jamma in this game, and Andre Drummond with a big-ass throwdown, bro. A big, angry throwdown by Andre Drummond to happen. Great stuff, but I have one complaint in this game, and I'm going to call you out, Billy Donovan, because you deserve to be called out for this. Why the hell do you have the starters in the 4th quarter of the game? Why the hell do you have your starters in? Like, what? Like, help me make this make sense. You had, at one point, a 25, a 24, 27-point lead, whatever the case is, and in the 4th quarter, you still had your starters out there. You couldn't put Andrew Funk in this game. You couldn't put Drell. You couldn't put Sonogo in there. You did towards the tail end of the 4th, but that is absolutely no excuse. Absolutely no excuse. What you should have done, Billy Donovan, was play the starters for 3 quarters. And with a big lead like that, you should rest your starters. Now, for Chicago, they have another chance to do that against the Portland Trailblazers, which, like Washington, are really, really terrible team. Really terrible team. I expect Chicago to just stand on business and continue to build momentum going into the playoffs, because you have a Houston Rocket team which, just like I talked about in the last segment, have been surging for the better, and then Boston, which I think is going to be a scheduled loss for the Bulls because nobody is going to beat Boston. But with that being said, I think for Chicago, the one thing that I have a gripe on, when you have that big of a lead against a team that you're supposed to win, and ultimately you did win, rest your starters. Rest your starters, because Lord knows Alex Caruso always gets hurt. You have Torrey Craig coming off an injury. You did not have Kobe White in this game because he was going through a hip injury, and in Billy Donovan's mind, they didn't want to push Kobe White to get back. So in that retrospective, I admire Billy Donovan for that, but you might have Kobe White back in tonight against Portland. If you get a big lead against the Blazers tonight for the Bulls, I suggest you play your starters for 3 quarters and then you rest them for the 4th quarter, because ultimately DeMar DeRozan and Kobe White have been playing a hell lot of minutes this season. I think they're 1 and 2 in the NBA as far as minutes per game. So Billy Donovan, rest your starters if you get a big lead after the 3rd quarter against Portland, please. I don't want to watch this game on Tuesday morning, because I'm probably likely going to watch the Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers tonight and see the starters play for 4 quarters. I'm not going to see that. I'm not going to see that. I need to see the starters play for 3 quarters, and if we get a big enough lead, rest them for the 4th. The Bulls shot 57% from the field. They just straight up cooked Washington. I don't even need to get into the stats, but I'm going to. They out-rebounded them 51-32. The assists were 33-27. The points in the paint in this game were 68-46 in favor of the Bulls. The fast break points were 21-14 in favor of the Bulls. And the leading scorer for Chicago was simply put, Ayo Dosunmu really stepped up. Career high 34 points with 9 assists, 4 of 7 from 3, 14-22 from the field. AC with 16, Vucci Main with 29 and 13, another double-double for him. DeMar DeRozan, he only had to take 13 shots, but he had 13 points. Off the bench, Andre Drummond, 13 points with 9 rebounds. A big game for him coming off the bench. Terry Taylor got 2 points. Javon Carter with 2 points and 3 rebounds, 3 assists. He played really good minutes. He played a really solid 19 minutes in this game. For Washington, Coulibaly led them in scoring with 15, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. Poole had 13 points in 23 minutes with 8 rebounds, but he had 4 turnovers. I don't know why this man is in Washington. I think Jordan Poole has completely fallen off. Kyle Kuzma was only limited to 11 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 of 10 for the field. Really good defense on Kyle Kuzma for the Bulls. And this was a win where all Bulls fans, all members of Bulls Nation can simply relax. You get another opportunity to do that against Portland, and then you got to lock back in against Houston. Good stuff by Chicago. If Sacramento and New York was a playoff test for the Sacramento Kings, the Kings failed that test, while the New York Knicks showed the NBA how to play defense. There's a negative and a positive about Knicks and Kings. We're going to talk about both of them when we come back on Let 'Em Know Kings United. We're back on Let 'Em Know Kings United, and if there's one word to describe the game between the New York Knicks and the Sacramento Kings this past weekend, that word that I'm going to give you is physical, because it was a physical game. It was a really competitive game, and this was a game that I thought for the most part Sacramento hung in there. They hung in there for the most part, but there was only one problem: Jalen Brunson. If this game was a playoff test to see how Sacramento would fare against a physical team in the playoffs, honestly, in my direct, honest opinion, the Sacramento Kings failed the playoff test. They really did fail, because it certainly reminded me of the Golden State Warriors series, where it got physical, and Sacramento, in my opinion, was soft against the Golden State Warriors, and once again, they are soft against the New York Knicks. 98-91, the final score of this one, as Jalen Brunson obviously stood out and really balled out. 42 points, becoming the 4th player in New York Knicks franchise history with 40 or more in consecutive games. Brunson had 45 in Thursday's win against the Portland Trailblazers. He has 7 40-point games this season when he was a first-time All-Star. In my opinion, he should have been an All-Star starter instead of Damian Lillard. But the All-Star game is pretty much over, or has been over for a couple months. Why am I talking about it still? I don't know. Tom Thibodeau said about Jalen Brunson's performance: you almost come to expect what Jalen did. It's every night. It's big play after big play. Every time you need a big bucket, he comes up with it. In the words of my favorite Bulls broadcaster, big-time players make big-time plays, and Jalen Brunson is a big-time bucket. He also is the first Knicks player to reach 40 in back-to-back games since Carmelo Anthony in 2014 did it on February 19th and the 21st. Hall of Famers Bernard King and Patrick Ewing are the other Knicks to do it. That's elite company right there. That is elite company for an all-star player like Jalen Brunson. Brunson said this, I don't have the resume those guys do, so it means a lot, but I'm just happy we found a way to win. Donte DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and Isaiah Hartenstein were freaking huge in this game as well. But I'm not talking about just on the offensive part of the floor. We're going to talk about the other side of the floor where I think the New York Knicks put on a masterclass for the rest of the NBA to take notes. I'm going to get into that in just a second. Donte DiVincenzo scored 15. Hart had 9 points and 12 boards. Isaiah Hartenstein was a force on the defensive end, blocking 5 shots and grabbing 14 rebounds along with 7 points. Thibodeau said it was a good team win. Actually, it was a great team win. I thought the defense was really good. They're a gritted offensive team. And then for the Sacramento Kings, look, offensively, you just couldn't get enough looks to beat this Knicks team. Now, part of it was the Knicks defense, and the other part of it, there was no flow. There was no rhythm to the offense for the Sacramento Kings. There was a lack of spray threes. There was a lack of touches in the paint, and De'Aaron Fox mentioned how the Kings, for the most part of this game, they got a decent amount of good looks. They just couldn't knock them down. Fox said, to be more specific, I felt like we got good looks. I felt like a lot of it, we just didn't make shots, but that's a good defensive team. They have to be able to capitalize on any of their mistakes, and I don't think we did a good job of that. The Kings' 91 points were their fewest in a home game this season. Sacramento fell to 0-8 when scoring fewer than 100 points as New York held its 5th straight opponent under that number. Brunson said about Mike Brown, they're a great team, explosive on offense, and Mike has done a good job coaching them there. They present a lot of problems on that side of the ball, and when we were able to keep them under 100 points, which is not easy to do, like I said, we found a way. It was the Kings' first loss when allowing fewer than 100 points, dropping them to 6-1. De'Aaron Fox added 20 points, 9 assists, and 7 rebounds, what was held a 5-19 shooting. Malik Monk scored 18 off the bench, and Domas, there's nothing else for me to say. Mr. Consistent does it again. 49th consecutive double-double, 21 points, and 14 rebounds. But the way the Knicks won this game, it was not just being physical. It was not just a physical game all around. It was the defensive end that won this game for the New York Knicks. And simply put, the New York Knicks put on a masterclass defensively that every team in the NBA needs to watch this game. They need to watch how the Sacramento Kings play, or the New York Knicks, they need to watch how the New York Knicks play defense, and they need to take notes, and they need to take notes really quick, because I thought New York was outstanding. They were outstanding on the defensive end. They knew where their help coverages were. They didn't do drop coverage on screens like a lot of players, like a lot of teams do their dumb, idiot, sporadic drop coverage on screens. They did a really good job playing up on screens. They iced screens really well. They didn't force De'Aaron Fox to get a whole lot of driving lanes. There was little to no place for Domantas Sabonis to roll to for most of this game. They did a really great job forcing turnovers. I thought OG Anunoby and Josh Hart were absolutely immaculate on the defensive end in this game. It was just a defensive masterclass that every team in the NBA needs to take notes on. A great team win for the New York Knicks and for the Sacramento Kings. If this was a playoff sneak preview, then Sacramento would fail quickly in the playoffs, because I think they need to work on their physicality in order to survive in the playoffs. 35% from the field for Sacramento, 43% from the field for the New York Knicks. The rebounds were 52-42 in favor of the Knicks. The assists, 22-19 in favor of Sacramento. The points in the paint were 44-36 in favor of the Knicks. The fast break points were even at 12 apiece. The blocks were 9-5 in favor of the Knicks, and that was the biggest difference of this game for me. as Isaiah Hartenstein was an absolute force on the defensive end blocking shots. He had 4 blocks in this game. He also had 14 rebounds, 3 assists, and 7 points. He had a +5, +- mostly on the defensive end. But Jalen freaking Brunson, the best point guard in the East, was the best player of this game. 42 points, 2 rebounds, or 2 assists, 4 steals, 1 block, 4 rebounds, 17 to 28 from the field, 5 of 10 from 3. He was just simply unguardable. OG Anunoby, he only had 2 points, but he did a really good job of guarding De'Aaron Fox and locking De'Aaron Fox all the way up. 3 blocks, 1 steal, 2 assists, 6 rebounds, just outstanding for him on the defensive end. Josh Hart was outstanding, 9 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists in this game. Alec Burks was really good off the bench, 12 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, shooting 4 of 10 from 3-point range. As far as the Sacramento Kings, De'Aaron Fox, you can't really blame him. 20 points, 9 rebounds, but only held a 5 of 19 shooting. Domantas Sabonis, Mr. Consistent, 21 points, 14 rebounds, another double-double for him, 49 straight. Malik Monk, 6th man of the year with 18 points. Harrison Barnes, solid game, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Keegan Murray, back in the starting lineup, 11 points, 6 rebounds, and an assist. Keon Ellis, 5 points in this game. 2 of 4 for the field with 3 rebounds and 2 steals. I think he needs to start more than Kevin Huerter, because Kevin Huerter put up a goose egg for Sacramento, and that's not good enough. If I was Mike Brown, I would make Kevin Huerter come off the bench for the rest of the season and put Keon Ellis in the starting lineup. But in any event, that was a good team win for the New York Knicks in a very physical game, but I think this will also suit Sacramento well come playoff time. That's going to do it for today's edition of Let 'Em Know Kings United. You can find this show on your favorite podcast app like Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and all that good stuff, as well as YouTube. Like this video if you are watching on YouTube. Hit subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that notification bell. Give us a follow on all those platforms, and give Let 'Em Know Kings United a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. I'm your host, Skylar Weisberg, and I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in, and I will see you next time for another edition of Let 'Em Know Kings United.